Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're jumping into the world of security. But, we're not going to start with a bunch of complex code or fancy tools. Nope. We're starting with the one thing that everything else is built on: how you think. So let me start by asking you a question. Just think about your favorite app for a second. The one you use every single day without even thinking about it. When you're using it, what's actually going on behind that slick, user-friendly screen? On the surface, it seems pretty simple, right? You punch in your password, maybe you upload a photo, or you fire off a message. Your data just flows from your device to some server out there. It's a totally normal thing you probably do dozens of times a day. And from your point of view, everything is working just perfectly. The app does exactly what you expect it to. It's fast, it's reliable, and it feels completely safe. But here's where it gets interesting. With every single login, with every piece of data you send, you are creating something valuable. Your information, your actions, all of it is being stored and processed, creating this digital footprint that could potentially become a target. And this, right here, is where security begins. So, to protect that value, we have to make a really fundamental shift in how we look at things. We need to adopt what people in the industry call the security mindset. And what's so cool about this slide is how clearly it shows the difference. The standard way of looking at things is to ask, does this system work? It's all about functionality. But the security approach, it asks a totally different and honestly, a much more important question. Could this system be misused? This mindset really operates on a few core assumptions. You just accept that, hey, people make mistakes. You assume that systems are constantly under threat of attack. And maybe the most important one, you assume that nothing is secure just because it's there. It's not about being paranoid, it's just about being prepared. So if we're going to think about misuse, we first have to figure out what an attacker might actually want. Or, to put it another way, what's actually valuable inside a system. In security speak, we call these things assets. An asset is just anything that has value. And because it has value, it needs to be protected. It's basically the treasure that we're trying to keep safe. And this treasure can take a lot of different forms. It could be user data, like names and emails, really sensitive things like passwords, important files, or even just getting access to the system itself. If it's valuable to you or your users, trust me, it's an asset. And of course, where there are assets, there are going to be attackers. But it's really important to think broadly here. An attacker isn't always some shadowy hacker in a hoodie. It could be, but it could also be a disgruntled employee, or even a regular user who just accidentally finds a flaw. So, where do these attackers look for weaknesses? They look at something called the attack surface. The best way to picture this is to think of your system like a castle. The attack surface is all of your doors, windows, gates, even secret tunnels, any possible way someone could try to get inside. In a digital system, these doors and windows are things like login pages, file upload forms, and all the network connections. They also include things called APIs, which are like channels that let different applications talk to each other. Every single one of these is a potential entry point, and this really hammers home a fundamental rule of security. The more doors and windows your castle has, the larger your attack surface, the more opportunities an attacker has to find a way in. It's that simple. Okay, so let's connect the dots here. A threat is that potential danger, right? Like a thief in the area. A vulnerability is a weakness, like you left a window unlocked. The risk is what actually happens when that threat takes advantage of the vulnerability. It's the thief climbing through your unlocked window. Understanding this sequence helps us figure out what to fix first. So, how in the world do we manage all these potential entry points? Well, to deal with all this complexity, security experts have a clever trick. They think in terms of boundaries. We call this a trust boundary. Think of it like a border crossing inside your system. When data or a user tries to cross this line, their level of trust changes. So we have to stop them and check their credentials. We can't just assume they're safe to let in. This boundary is basically the line between the untrusted outside world and your trusted inner system. So any data trying to cross it, like someone typing into a login form, you have to treat it like a potential Trojan horse. You just can't trust it. You have to inspect it, validate it, and block anything that looks malicious before it gets inside. Okay, that's a lot of theory, I get it. But how do you actually put this new way of thinking into practice? Well, your first mission, should you choose to accept it, is to create what we call a system card. It's actually really simple. First, you identify the assets. What's the valuable stuff you're trying to protect? Second, find all the entry points. what's your attack surface look like? And third, start thinking like an attacker. How could someone misuse these entry points to get their hands on your assets? So the most important takeaway here is this. You can have all the best security tools in the world, but if you don't have the right mindset, you will always be one step behind. Security is a way of thinking long before it's a piece of software. And that leaves us with one last question for you to think about. Pick a system you use every single day. What is its most valuable asset? And now that you've got this new mindset, how could it be misused? Thanks so much for watching.